Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Woo-hoo-hoo! Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate you. All right. Here we go. Come on. Yeah. Woohoo! All right. Some of you might be going, why on earth is she starting with this? Well, it's not only boost my energy, but to boost your energy in the room. Because what are we doing here? Yes, we're taking care of business. Right. All right. So, welcome SUU students and faculty. My topic today is the leader in you. The leader in you. Yes, you, even right now, are a leader. I'm going to cover the 16 steps that it takes to become a great leader. So before we get into that, I want to ask you a few questions. How many know you want to be an employee? Raise your hand. How many know you want to be an employee? Okay. And don't be afraid to raise your hands. This is a little bit of a participation speech. So how many are already employees? Super, all right. How many know you already want to be an entrepreneur? Okay, and then how many have already started a business? Excellent, a lot of mix of people in here, so thank you for that. Now, with that, how many of you know you want to be a boss? All right, and then how many of you know you want to manage people? Okay, all right. So it doesn't matter what you want to do or what you already are doing, either being an employee or you know you want to start your own business, you have to manage people forever. You have to relate to people. You have to deal with people every day. And the relationships that you create over the course of your life will make the difference of your success. 90% of the relationships that you have will be a reflection of the success you have. Okay? So it's going to be all about managing people in your life and the relationships that you have. So what we will cover today is a boss versus a leader, an employee versus an entrepreneur. And then we'll get into the 16 core competencies it takes to be a great leader, whether you are running your own business or you are an employee, okay? So, did everybody catch one of the questions that I asked? How many know that they want to be a boss? Did you catch that question? All right, anybody can be a boss. Anybody can be a boss. But you know what? It takes a great leader to be a great boss. Bosses sometimes just don't do the right things. Bosses cannot be great leaders sometimes. Great leaders get people involved. Great leaders coach people. They train people. They get people enthused. They get people to have a buy-in. They develop people. They give credit where credit is due. A regular old boss just does not. They typically will point fingers, say, this is all about me. No, great leaders, it's a we. Okay? And we'll get into that a little bit more. Be the leader that everyone wants to work for and aspire to be. That's what this is about. So, employee versus entrepreneur. I just wanted to touch on this a little bit to get you to be thinking about, okay, some of you are already employees. That's fine, and that's okay. And some of you are already own a business or are entrepreneurs, and that's fine too. But just be thinking about, maybe someday I might want to be an entrepreneur, right? So here's the definition of an employee. A person who wants to work under the direction and control of an employer. That's an employee. You're under the direction and control of an employer, where you're really trading time for money. That's an employee. An entrepreneur, on the other hand, starts their own business, they take most of the risks, and they enjoy most of the rewards. They don't have to report to anybody. They don't have to be under the control of anybody else. They usually have the time freedom. That's the difference there. That's the nuance. So if maybe you're an employee right now, if that resonates with you right there, then maybe someday you'll be an entrepreneur. I just wanted you to be thinking about that, because ultimately, it's still about managing people, whether you're an employee, because someday, if you're not managing people yet, you probably will. You'll need to create great relationships. So Lori Greiner said this once on Shark Tank. She said, entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week. Is that crazy? So some of you that are already entrepreneurs and have a business right now, that's you. That's you, because you don't want to work for somebody else. Now, I just wanted to share with you my journey and my story, because I didn't start out as an entrepreneur. I always had that feeling of an entrepreneur. I always felt like I was an entrepreneur at my job, but I started out at the largest transportation company in the world, UPS. And my 15 years there, I worked my way up the ladder. And I learned how to lead people. I learned how to manage people. I learned how to relate to people. I learned how to get people to work for me. I knew what it took, and it was just practice and practice and practice. I ended up teaching a lot of managers and supervisors how to be better leaders. I wouldn't have traded any of that for the world. That was my journey. That was my choice. Now, this isn't, right or wrong at all. I just wanted to show you my story and my journey of where I started. This may resonate with you, that that's how you want to do it, and you may not want to do it that way. There's no right or wrong. There's no judgment, nothing like that. Just wanted to share with you mine. Currently, I own 2 businesses. A real estate brokerage, and that's called Win Properties, and then a business marketing management and consulting firm. That's called Strategic Momentum Solutions. And again, your journey. Just wanted to share with you mine. I wouldn't have traded any of that for the world. All right, so the leader in you today. How and who are you being today? I'm going to take you guys through an exercise. And play along with me here. Don't fall asleep, because I'm going to have you close your eyes. So, close your eyes. No peeking. Close your eyes. And this exercise, I want you to examine how you are being on a daily basis. Who are you being on a daily basis? Because you're just starting out in your life. But right now, you're even managing and leading your life. And I have found there's one question that helps to discern whether or not you are managing and leading your life right now. Here's the question. Keep your eyes closed. Don't open them until I tell you. Here it is. How do you show up? How do you show up every day? How do you show up for your professors? How do you show up for your family, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters? How do you show up for your friends? How do you show up for the people in your life that you interact with daily? What does that exactly mean? That means, how are you handling communications? How are you handling conflicts? Do you accept responsibility when there's a conflict? Because there's always 2 in a conflict. Everyone has some responsibilities. Do you give credit where credit is due? Okay, open your eyes. So if you've answered some of that with a resounding yes, I think I'm really great at all of that, guess what? You're on a really great start to being a great leader. If some of that was a little not so, you have some room for improvement, and that's okay too. But that just right there shows you how good of a start do you have on being a great leader. Because if you're managing yourself really well, you're handling conflicts with others, you're leading your life right now in a really great way, and you have a really great start. Okay? All right, so how will you lead tomorrow? Because leadership does not come overnight. You can learn all of these 16 core competencies that I'm going to tell you, but that just doesn't go, I got it. I'm a really great leader. You got to learn it, you got to practice it until you get to mastery. And every time you practice something, you go, oh, I didn't do that so great. Next time you're going to do it better. Oh, I didn't do that so great. Next time you're going to do it better. And you just keep getting better and better and better. So it's mastery that we're talking about in creating a great leader for yourself. So how will you lead tomorrow? This is what we're going to talk about, the 16 core competencies. And this sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. And it's going to feel like I'm fire hosing you with these 16 things. And I'm just going to tell you the what on some of these, but I'll give you some glimpses into the how to do some of these things with some stories. But these 16 things that I have found work really nicely when I've categorized it in 3 areas. It's how you lead your business, or how you lead the specific area of your responsibility if you're working for somebody, how you lead others, and leading yourself. Those are the 16 core competencies we're going to talk about. So first, how do you lead your business? And again, that may sound just like entrepreneurial, but in some case, in some situations, eventually, as you're an employee working for another company, you'll be responsible for your area of responsibility that they've given you. That's leading your area. That's leading your business, right? So how do you lead your business? The first thing is create and carry out the vision. And again, that sounds like it's still entrepreneurial, but as an employee, you carry out the vision for your employer, right? So that piece you have there, that piece you will have a responsibility in. So carry out the vision. Next is building the team that someone's hired for you, building that team that shares the values that the company has and the vision that that company has, or if it's your company you're starting. Now, I have a really great example of these 2 things right here. So a guy walked up to a worker and said to the worker, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, that's really a stupid question. I'm building a brick wall." And the guy goes, "Oh, okay." Walks down the wall to the next guy and says to the worker, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the worker goes, "Oh man," he gets all excited and he's like, "Dude, I am building a cathedral with all its glamour and glory and grandeur that many people will enjoy for many years." And the guy goes, "Whoa, that's amazing." You see the difference? You see the difference of how the worker was so empowered and driven with purpose because someone showed him where he's going and what's the purpose of building this wall. You want to hire people like that. You want to hire people that buy into that vision so they know what purpose they're doing a job for. Don't just hire employees just to fill a role, just to do a job, because they're just going to do the job. And that's it. You know that 85% of employees at their jobs right now are disengaged. What? Yeah, disengaged. Because someone didn't show them the purpose and the why of what they're doing. Or they're just maybe not at the right job that resonates with them. Some of you, that may resonate with you right now. Right? You got a long ways to go yet. Find something that you enjoy doing. Because it gets old if you continue to do something that you don't like doing. You want to be doing something that you love to do. Buy into someone's vision if you're working for somebody. Those are the first 2. The third one in leading your business is processes and systems. Now, if you work for somebody, or if you're going to start your own company, there are tons of processes and systems that you'll have to implement and that you'll have to create. And when you work for somebody, you may think of better processes and systems for that company. You want to know them and implement them. The next is knowing your numbers. I don't care if you're working for somebody and you have a little area of responsibility, or you're starting your own business. Knowing your numbers. Knowing your numbers is going to make the difference for everything. Because if you know your numbers and you're an employee, as you start to get more responsibility, you're going to get promotions. People will start to see that you really have a handle of what you're responsible for. And if you're starting your own business, you have to know what's working and what's not working. Do I know my net profit? Do I know what it takes to buy this widget and sell it? What's my margins? How much employee turnover do I have? How many customer complaints do I have? Knowing your numbers is critical in making improvements where there's deficiencies. Let me share an example with you. When I was at that Brown company, they call Big Brown, I had to give a presentation to a bunch of staff people. And we're all sitting in this big conference room, and somebody said to me, "Hey, Patty, what was your employee turnover and your customer complaints last month?" And I spouted off some numbers. And everybody in the room, it was almost like their heads just did a jerk, and they all went zip right at me and went, "Wow, she hasn't even presented her numbers like, on a slide. She knew it right off the top of her head." That's knowing your numbers. And I never really thought that was a big deal at the time, but later on I realized how big of a deal that was, knowing my numbers so intimately and so thoroughly, because I knew when I walked up to one of my managers or one of my supervisors that worked for me, I knew my numbers for the whole area, and I knew their numbers, even if I had to maybe carry a little cheat sheet for their numbers. I knew their numbers because it would tell me that either they knew their numbers or they didn't know their numbers. And I would know, oh, I know the little deficiency, it's over there. Did they know that? That's where the deficiency is. So in me knowing my numbers, it helped me help train those people as I went along in operations. That's knowing your numbers. So you can know what decisions to make next and where to make improvements and deficiencies. Next is problem solving. Problem solving. Don't solve problems on your own. You get that, right? Don't solve problems on your own. You want to get people to collaborate with you. So if you're working for someone, get your other peers to join with you on solving a problem. That gets buy-in from everybody in that solution you all come up with. Got it? All right. So that's leading your business. All right, lead others. Getting hot in here. All right, leading others. So first item up is holding people accountable. And that may sound so, simple. Everybody knows, oh, you got to hold people accountable. But it's not as simple as that. Holding people accountable can be hard. It's like communication, right? It's something you have to work at. So let me give you an example of how to hold someone accountable. And this goes miles in just this right here. So when you hire someone or someone starts to come work for you, you're the employee at someone's company, they come and they work for you. So you sit down with them and you go, hey, here's my expectations. Here's what I expect of you to do the job. Here's the role to do the job. And here's the numbers that you need to do in doing that job. You both agree on it, and then you write it down. And then, here's the key, you have regular sit-downs with that person. Regular sit-downs with that person. So then you can go, okay, here's where you did really well. Here's where it needs some improvement. That's holding someone accountable to do their role and then to do the performance that needs to be done. That gets miles right there. Because look, people want to be held accountable. And you may think, what? People want to be held accountable? Yes. Over all my years of experience, people want to be held accountable. They may not quite hear it that way, but people don't just want to bumble along in a job. They feel like they belong when you tell them what they're responsible for, right? That's what holding someone accountable means. Next is mentor and develop your team. You know my example just a little while ago about knowing my numbers? What was I doing there? Showing someone else how to know their numbers and how to look for deficiencies, right? So always mentor and develop your team as you grow up into a company you're working for, or you're going to start your own. Next is give credit where credit is due. Oh my gosh. Give credit where credit is due. Let me give you an example of this, an experience that I had. So back at one of my old jobs, I used to have this boss. His name was Joe. And I used to go to Joe and I said, Joe, man, we can take this little spot over here and we can do this and we can do that and we can improve that little system and that process right there with that couple employees. And we could save a lot of time and money right there. Joe would go, Patty, that's a really great idea. Guess what Joe would do? You already know, don't you, where I'm going with this. Joe would go to his boss, and Joe would say, hey, boss, I have this really great idea. I'm going to do this, 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 and over there, and we're going to save a lot of money in doing that. And his boss would go, Joe, that's such a great idea. So I didn't know he wasn't giving me credit for that. Not that I needed the credit for that, but look, when you don't give credit where credit is due to people, it starts to chip away at that trust and that respect and that communication that you have for someone. And that's what it was doing for me when I was working for that guy. Until one day, and I figured it out, he wasn't sharing my ideas. I went to him and I said, and this is a whole nother level of leadership, but I'm just going to give you this little snippet here because it's super important that you stand up for yourself. So if you're working for somebody and you're working for a boss who sucks, you got to stand up for yourself. And sometimes you have to tell that boss what's not working, whether it's not working for you or someone else. Because I said to him, I said, Joe, why are you not giving me credit for those ideas? And I would say, not that I need that, but look, it's chipping away a little bit of the respect that I have for you. And if you're doing it to me, you're doing it to everyone else on the team. And he went, oh my God, I didn't realize that, which was mind-boggling to me in and of itself. But he said, thank you. I will work on that, and I will never do that again. That went miles for me. And that was like one of the first realizations I had of not only standing up for myself, but showing a boss that I worked for how to be a better boss, how to be a better leader. Because I did that. And then it just became compounding for me. And it just kept snowballing for me being a better leader. Those little experiences right there. That's giving credit where credit is due. Huge. Next, connect with your team. Connect with your team, people that work for you, whether you're working for someone else or you're starting a business, connect with your people. Show them that you care. It will go miles. People will move mountains for you. Because listen, no matter whether we are in a job, working for an employer, or you want to start your own business, we're all in the same business. Does anybody know what that business is? Does anybody know what that business is? What business are we in? I don't care what you're doing. Anybody? Oh my God, awesome. What's your name?
Derek.
Derek. freaking fantastic. We are in the people business, people. We're in the people business. We're in the relationship business. Every day of your life, every minute, every hour, you're in the people business. You're in the people business. So people have to know that you care. It will move mountains for you when people know that you care. So connect with your team. Last in this section is respectful relationships. Have respect for others. Treat people fairly. Do the same for one person that works for you that you would for the other. Treat people fair. Next up is one of my favorite quotes, and I live and breathe this quote because I learned early on in my career that people are the most important thing in a business, in a company. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People want to be heard and people want to be seen and understood. That is a core intrinsic thing about all of us. And so when you care about people, they will move mountains for you. I want to share another example with you. And that is, there are so many great leaders out there that you know nothing about. Great leaders are silent and they're humble. Here's an example of a guy who got called to help Campbell Soup Company. Anybody know? Everybody knows Campbell Soup Company, right? Yep. So he was called to help Campbell Soup Company. Campbell Soup Company went through dire straits in years back. He came in and he talked to everyone he could talk to. Went down into the operations, went into the facilities, talked to employees, talked to supervisors, talked to managers. This is the CEO, right? One of the first things he did was he sat down and he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter and addressed it to every employee, and he talked about the struggles they were going through, the problems they were up against, all of that, and what he was going to do about it. Whoa! Is that crazy or what? That just sounds like such a big task. But he felt so deeply connected to the people there and wanted to make a difference for them and in their lives that he did that. And oh my God, that went miles. He took Campbell Soup from here to here, just like that. Well, it didn't happen just like that. It took some time, but he got the people. He got the people's trust because he truly cared. All right, last and third section is leading yourself. And I alluded to this in the beginning, right? The exercises we went through. The little visualization you went through. Leading yourself. Because look, you can't control others around you. You can only control yourself. So the first thing you must do is manage yourself and lead yourself. Where can you accept responsibility in a conflict, in a miscommunication? Somebody did something wrong, somebody hurt your feelings, whatever the case may be. Where can you accept responsibility in that conflict? Because there's always a little bit of something, whatever degree it is, that you can accept responsibility. So manage yourself first. Next is, who are you being and how do you show up? How do you behave? It resonates and spreads everywhere as it regards to leadership. In your life, and when you start to work for a company, you're working for a company now, or you start your own business. Next is setting a good example every day. If you've trained somebody to go, here's how you label the package, here's how you put the label, here's where you put the package, go do this, don't throw them, set them down, blah, 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 right? So if you train somebody how to do a very specific job, make sure that when you do that job, you do it the exact same way. Now, that's just one little example, but people watch you every day. And if you start to move up the ladder in a company where you'll start to have more and more responsibility, you're going to be watched. Set that example. You'll lose respect if you don't set the example. Next is, do what you say you will do. Another example of potentially chipping away at the trust, respect, motivation if you don't do what you say. Okay? Next is being proactive versus reactive. If you see a situation where, boss, I think we need to hire somebody over there, we're starting to have a backup, or whatever the case may be, try to get ahead of it instead of reacting to it later. Last is listen. Listen first. Crucial communications is the most important thing you could be doing, whether you work for somebody else, and that is a whole nother topic in and of itself, communication. Communications is so important in relating to people, whether you're just right out on the street, whether you're in sales, starting a business, trying to get funding, whatever the case may be. This part of listening first in communication is critical, and it will get you miles. Here's how you do it. I know we only have a few more minutes, and again, I know I've fire hosed these 16 things, but I felt it was so important, and I wanted you to have these because a lot of people don't have these things. This is like a 2-week or so course, but here's how you do this. I mean, this sounds so easy to go, listen first, oh yeah, I can do that. No, communications is hard. You have to work at it, just like you have to work at being a great leader, right? So here's how you listen. You stand firmly in front of the person, you look them in the eye, and you don't focus off of anything else. You're focusing on that person. You're looking at them in the eye, and they're talking, and you're going, okay, I get it, I think I get it, and you repeat what they said. Repeat what they said. That shows that you're trying to understand them. Because if you're listening, and in your mind you're thinking, how can I understand them? I want to understand what they're saying. That lets the person know that you hear them. Because what did I say a while ago? People want to be heard. They want to know that you understand them. It helps make them feel like they belong, right? That's where communication and that listening first is so important. All right? I don't know where I left this thing. Okay. I know we're close. All right. So if we do happen to, formulate those answers in our mind when we're listening to people, because that's often what we end up doing is we're formulating responses, stick on trying to understand the person and listen. If we react negatively or we say something we don't mean, it's disempowering and it alienates people. Okay, one of my last favorite quotes. Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel." Just like the other quote, you have to show people you care. They'll never forget how you made them feel. That's how you get people to work for you. That's how you get people to move mountains for you. And if you end up starting your own company, you will get people to just be so productive for you. Okay, here's what we learned today. Boss versus a leader, which one will you be? And again, we don't want to just be a boss, right? We want to be a great leader because a great leader is going to make you that great boss. Entrepreneur versus employee, which direction will you go? Again, doesn't matter. Just know that this is about people because you're in the people business, right? So it doesn't matter whether you start out as an employee or even if you start right out into an entrepreneur. But which way will you go? And the 16 core competencies we covered under each one of these areas: leading your business or your department, leading others, and leading yourself. And I want to leave you with this last quote. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Aspire to be that because you want to be a great leader that people want to work for and aspire to be themselves. Thank you. Well, I think that was about my time. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, those that wanted to stay for lunch after, we can do that there as well. Any questions, comments? Yes?
I just would like to hear more from you about the businesses you've started and where are they located, why did you start them, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I tell you, so when I was at UPS, I had this burning desire to do more, and I felt like I wanted to do my own thing, and I felt like it was going to be outside of UPS, and what I wanted to do was not going to be there. So I left, and that was a great job, and again, I think I shared, I wouldn't have traded that experience for the world, but I knew I wanted to do more, and so the first thing I did when I left was start a real estate company. And I started that real estate company not really thinking I was going to do much with it. I just wanted to buy and sell properties for myself. And what ended up happening was people saw me doing that and they wanted to come work for me. And so that just kind of happened organically for me, that I ended up growing that. And so I had at one point probably a dozen agents that came to work for me. And I loved that, going back into like managing people and training people and showing people how to do a job. And it just kind of went from there. And I loved it. So that's one example. And that's actually in Phoenix, Arizona, I think is the other part of your question, where it's nice and sunny and a little warmer than here. Anybody else? I thought I saw another hand over here.
It was the same.
Same. All right. What's SUSC?
It's a throwback hat, Southern Utah State College.
State College. Awesome.
Used to be SUU.
Awesome. Got it. Anybody else? Yes.
You said you were an executive at UPS. What position or what executive role did you fill there?
Yeah. I can give you a little quick snippet of where I started and where I rose to, because I didn't start it as an executive. Most executives there usually start in the low ranks, and that's where I started. I started out as a driver. I was what they call a package car driver. I was a delivery driver for about a year-ish, and I knew then that I wanted to do more and manage people and show people how to do things and that. And so probably it wasn't much into a year of driving that my boss saw greater things in me and sent me off to go to some interviews. And so I just didn't always see that kind of side to me, but I knew I wanted to do more. I just didn't know what it looked like at the time. So I got promoted into a customer service role, and then I started doing great things there. And I just started getting better and better at doing things, not like just my job in and of itself, but then also managing people. Then I got promoted into a supervisory role where I managed thousands of other drivers. Then I got promoted into another role where it was a manager's position. And then I managed like a whole facility. And I was managing all the loaders and the unloaders and the drivers and the supervisors and the part-time supervisors. And then I got promoted again. So all this occurred over probably about a 15-year period, obviously. And then I got promoted to manage multi-facilities. And so I had probably half of Arizona State and then part of southern Nevada. And so I was responsible for many facilities where there was just thousands of employees and managers and supervisors. That was probably one more step in there where I got a couple special assignments on training people how to manage better, how to lead better, how to communicate better. So I did lots of that. And then one of my other jobs was in the corporate office for about a year, writing training programs and leadership programs, and then ran the training schools. And so a lot of experience in all of that. So that's really what I was sharing earlier. I wouldn't have traded any of that for the world, because I learned so many different things about how to run a business, because I had so many different roles inside the business, in operations and then in HR and in labor unions. So I had just a ton of experience there. It really brought me to where I'm at today. Thanks. Anybody else? All right. Very good. Thank you all. A pleasure.